So we're very happy to have Lynn Smith from LexisNexis as a guest presenter for our legal research series. Today's workshop is going to cover statutes, and Lynn will be covering both basic and advanced searching tips for Nexis Uni and 3 different ways to search for statutes. So Lynn Smith is a training consultant with LexisNexis. She has a law degree and a master's degree in library studies, and she's worked for LexisNexis for over 20 years now and has conducted a lot of training webinars for students. So we do ask that during this webinar that you keep yourself muted during the presentation. You're welcome to use the chat box in Zoom to ask any questions that come up, and I will be monitoring that and asking Lynn to address those questions. And there will be a brief Q&A at the end if you want to ask further questions. So without further ado, I'll let Lynn get started.
Thank you, Julia, so very much for that introduction. But more importantly, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to conduct a training session on Nexis Uni. And as you indicated, yes, we're going to be talking about different ways to search statutes, both federal and state, on Nexis Uni. So what we're going to start first with is we're going to start with this main search box. And I always like to tell people that this main search box is powerful. And the reason I like to tell people that the main search box is powerful is because you can perform a number of different tasks using this main search box, which I will show you. So we're going to start with what I like to say is the easiest thing to do when it comes to legal research. And that is when you have a legal citation to a document. You got a legal citation to a statute. So we're going to first start with federal statutes. And I'm going to type in a citation. And I'm just going to address that citation for one moment. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with a legal citation for a federal statute, a legal citation for a federal statute consists of 3 parts. The first part is the title. So we want Title 4. The middle part is the abbreviation for the publication. And the third and final part, which is also a number, is the section, not a page, the section. And the reason being is because you can have multiple sections on a page. So right now, I'm saying I want Title 4 of the United States Code, USC, Section 8. Now, just so you know, federal statutes are found in 3 different publications. The United States Code, USC, which is the official publication. It is the official publication because it is published by our federal government, the US government. Federal statutes can also be found in the USCA, United States Code Annotated, which is published by West, and the United States Code Service, USCS, which is published by Lexis, the company that I work for. Now, a couple of things that you need to understand. It does not matter which abbreviation you use, whether you use that USC, USCA, or USCS, the system knows what you're talking about. However, the way I'm typing it right now is what we like to refer to as proper blue book citation, the way that one has to cite in the legal world. But one of the things you have to understand about Nexis Uni is there's a lot of flexibility. So I do not have to use proper blue book citation. So right now, I just got my 4, USC 8. There are no spaces. I took away the punctuation. I did not put that U, that S, and that C in uppercase. So number 1, it does not matter which abbreviation you use, USC, USCA, or USCS, what you're going to see. The system knows what you're talking about. It doesn't matter whether you use proper blue book citation or not. As you see, this is the furthest from proper blue book citation as one can get. So I've got my Title 4, United States Code, USC, Section 8. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on my search. Now, one of the things you have to understand about statutes is statutes are codified. Codification. What that means is, excuse me, we put all the laws together by topic. I told you that this first number is the title. It's Title 4, but Title 4 represents a topic, and the topic that it represents is flag and seal, seat of government, and the states. So a lot of times people think that statutes are organized by numbers because we use numbers. No, statutes are organized by topics. Codification, codified, meaning they're organized by topics. So right now we're looking at Title 4, which we saw is that flag and seal, seat of government, and the states, Section 8, which is respect for the flag. Now, because statutes are codified, they're put together by topics, by subjects. On your statutes, you're going to see this previous and this next. And basically what this will allow you to do is, I like to say, turn the pages online by going section by section. So if I click on next, this is going to take me to the next section within Title 4, which is, once again, we're still in Title 4, but now we're looking at Section 9. If I click on next again, it's going to take me to the next section. And once again, we're still in Title 4, Chapter 1. So I'm going to go next one more. So now we have moved to Title 4, but Chapter 2, the seal. So basically, like I said, the next and the previous will allow you to basically go section by section, just if you were looking in the books and you were just going down the pages. So once again, we're still in Title 4, the flag and the seal, the seat of government, but we're looking at Chapter 2 now, which is the seal. But more importantly, we're looking at Section 41, seal of the United States. So on your statutes, when you get there, you'll see that previous and that next, which will basically give you the capability of, I like to say, turning the pages, but going section by section. So I could continue to go next, till I get to Title 5. Or I could go previous, till I get to my Title 3. I also want to point out over here where you see this table of content. If I click on this table of content, this will show me the two sections within Chapter 2. My apologies, Chapter 2. So I'm going to go previous. Go previous again, so I can get back to that Chapter 1. And as you see, this is giving me all of the sections that fall within my Chapter 1. So if I'm looking at, I started with Section 8 of Title 4, but if I wanted to quickly go to Section 1, instead of clicking previous, I can simply click on this Section 1, flag, strips, and stars on. So those are nice ways to kind of jump from one statute to another statute fairly easily and quickly. I'm going to go back to my default page, my home page. I'm going to use my Nexus Uni. And now I'm going to go get a state statute. Now, one of the things you have to understand is that each state refers to its statute differently. I live in Missouri. In Missouri, we call our statutes the Missouri Revised Statutes. One of my next door neighbor, the state of Illinois, their statutes are the compiled annotated Illinois statute. So because each state calls their statute something differently, you may not be familiar with the proper publication, which isn't necessary. So what I'm simply going to do right now is I'm going to type Ohio space, the word code, and we're going to go find a Ohio statute. So I want Ohio code and statutes are one and the same. 5.47, section 5.47. Going to click on my search. And I thought this was a very interesting statute. In the state of Ohio, the month of June is basically Ohio Goes Boating Month, meaning I guess that is your month dedicated to going boating. So once again, statutes, whether we're talking about the federal or the state, are codified. They're organized by topics, by subject. So if I want to see the next section, I simply click on next. And this is going to take me to the next section, which there is a date that is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. This is, Ohio Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. Most states, just so you know, have designated holidays. A lot of people are not aware of all the different holidays that their state may, not just a date, but a month that they may observe. And we're going to take a look at that. But once again, if I click on next again, this is going to take me to the next section, which is the first Saturday of May is Veterans Suicide Awareness Day. And once again, I have my table of content. And this way I can quickly and easily get from one to another. So I'm going to go back to my default page, my home page. So if you have the citation, also for states, you got that section number, but you may not be familiar with how that state, what the correct abbreviation is. Just type in, do my Missouri code 9.606, the section, click on my search. Oh, I apologize. I'm cheating off the top of my head, which is not always a good thing. Let me see. I'm gonna do that one a little bit later. Once I'm going to have to kind of cheat a little bit to the side. I think it is 9.060, but sometimes I get my numbers mixed up. So basically, we're gonna revisit this another way to assist us. Okay, so now what we're going to do is talk about searching statutes. So let's say you want to find all the laws for Ohio or any state or just statutes in generally that deal with marriage, okay? So I'm gonna type in marriage. That's the topic I wanna use. And I just want you to be aware that the date default for the product is previous 2 years. I can do all available dates. We provide you with some date ranges, and then you can customize your own date. I'm gonna do all available dates. And I want you to be aware that the default for searching is all content types. However, you may specify a content type, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to specify a content type. I'm going to specify legal, but more importantly, I want to search legislations and statutes. So I'm going to select US. Now, if I wanted to, I could specify, you know what? I just want to look at Ohio. And right now, if I was to conduct a search, I would only be searching statutes and legislation dealing with marriage from Ohio. But maybe I want to do Ohio in my state of Missouri. I may do that. Select Missouri. So right now I'm searching statutes and legislation that mentions marriage, that deals with Ohio and Missouri. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all statutes on the state level. If I wanted to, this is going to be state and federal. So if I want to do federal and just federal, I could select federal. But I'm going to search all statutes, whether they are federal or state. So, and they're going to mention marriage. Okay, so now I'm going to page down and I want you to look to the left side. And what I'm going to do first is click on category, because right now what I'm doing is I'm searching not only statutes, but legislation. And legislation, it is what leads or becomes statutes. Remember, everyone, we have three branches of government. We have our legislative branch, our executive branch, and our judiciary branch. In that legislative branch, they introduce legislation. And that legislation, if it becomes enacted, becomes law, becomes statutes, codes. So I always like to say, that legislation becomes law when it is enacted, and that requires two branches of government. It's passed by the legislative branch and it goes to the executive branch, and the president or the governor may sign it into law. But we also know that in our government, we have a check and balance. Just because the president or the governor vetoes it doesn't mean it still cannot become law. That legislative branch can always override a veto. So what I'm going to do is I only want to look at codes. Codes and statutes are one and the same. Keep in mind that when, that legislative branch introduces legislation, which is a bill, and for some of you, depending on your age, you may have heard of something called Schoolhouse Rock. And if you can Google Schoolhouse Rock and I'm Just a Bill, only a bill sitting on Capitol Hill, and it talks about that legislative process. So a lot of times bills are introduced, but they do not become law. They do not get enacted. So I'm going to click on that code. So this way I can find the codes that deal with marriage. But more importantly, I'm going to look at a jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction I'm going to select is, of course, Ohio. So right now we have every statute, all 518, that mentions marriage, because we said go out and look in statutes and bring back statutes that mentions marriage. Well, one of the things you have to understand about full text keyword searching is full text keyword searching is a blessing, but it's also a curse. It's a blessing because we can say to the system, go out and retrieve every single statute that mentions marriage, where the marriage is mentioned 79 times, which means it's probably going to be about marriage, or those documents where marriage is only mentioned once, which means it's probably not going to really be about marriage. So keep in mind that when you're doing full text keyword searching, the system is bringing back every document, whether your search term is mentioned once, twice, 5 times, 50 times, or 100. Just because your search term is mentioned once or twice doesn't make it very relevant, doesn't make it on point. So I'm going to pause for a moment before we move to a really great way to search statutes, just to check in and see if there are any questions and or concerns. So Julia and Amanda, are there any questions in the chat?
No questions so far, just someone arriving a little late, but we are going to be sending out a recording via email, so there's no worries if you missed the beginning. You will be able to see all that content later. But if anyone has any questions, you can put them in chat and we can address those.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this search box to find a source. So I'm going to type in Ohio. So here you see we have the pages, Ohio Revised Code Annotated. Codes and statutes are one and the same. Now, if you notice to the right, this little symbol of the dots with the lines, that's letting me know I have a great way to search my statutes. Because remember, I said statutes are codified. They're organized by topics. And that way to search statutes is a browsing capability, browsing through the table of content. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this symbol. And remember, I said you want to find the laws for marriage. Well, because statutes are codified, browsing is a great way to take a look at your statutes because they're organized. So all of the marriage for law, all of the laws for marriage are going to be put together. All of the laws for education are going to be put together. Remember, we found 519 documents that mentions marriage from the Ohio statutes. Well, there are not 519 statutes really about marriage. So one of the things, and we're going to take a look at this, one of the things you have to understand is that on the state level, each state does something differently. So just because you know how Ohio does something does not mean that the other 49 states in the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico would do it the same way. It will vary state by state. So right now, and I want to see the laws for Ohio that deal with marriage. So basically, just look for a topic or a subject that you think is going to be related to marriage. And me taking a look at your different titles, the one that stands out to me that's probably going to deal with marriage is Title 31, Domestic Relations. So all I have to do is click on this box with the plus sign and it will expand. And so now you see different chapters. So if I want to, I can go into just chapter 3101, marriage. Just click on that box with the plus sign. So in a matter of 2 clicks, I have all of the laws for Ohio that deals with marriage. And as you can see, they're not 519. So this is a great way to search, is a browsing capability. But I'm going to do another state just so you can see that it does vary by state, how that state organizes its statutes. I'm going to go with Illinois. Illinois. Too many, let me check my spelling. I'm having one of those moments where okay, so here we see that, the Illinois statutes. I'm going to click on my nice little symbol. And so this is going to give me the table of content, how Illinois organizes its state statutes. So unlike you all, they use chapters. So it's going to vary. Some states will use titles, some will use chapters. There are some states, and we're going to take a look at one, California, Louisiana, and Texas, and New York, where instead of them having one big publication, they have multiple codes, still codified. So here we see the chapters instead of titles. So I'm once again looking for something that's going to deal with marriage. So as I'm scrolling down, just looking at the different topics. And as you will see, looking at these, the one that probably is going to be dealing with marriage is this 750 families. So it will vary state by state. And so looking at underneath that chapter 750, we see this Illinois Marriage and Dissolution of Marriage Act. And what's great about the browsing is if you open up the wrong title, the wrong chapter, the wrong subchapter, things like that, you can just always close it up and open up the next one. But I'm going to open this one up and I'm going to go to part 2. Part 2, marriages. So in a matter of a few clicks, now I have all of the laws for Illinois that deals with marriage. I'm going to do California, just to kind of show you, it does vary by state. So here we see California. So it doesn't matter whether I type the word code or statute, system knows what I'm talking about. So I'm going to click on this symbol, table content. And like I said, unlike most states where they got, we have one big code, California, Texas, Louisiana, New York, they have multiple codes. So once again, if I'm trying to find something that deals with marriage, I'm looking at the different codes, and the one that of course stands out is family code. Click on that box with the plus sign, and looking at the different divisions, I'm thinking, okay, division 3, marriage. And so here is giving me, different options. Like I said, what I like about the browsing is if you, open up the wrong part, you don't see what you're looking for, close it up and open up the next one, because they are codified. They're put together by topic. So we're going to take a look at the federal statutes. And I'm going to just use this opportunity to kind of show you some statutes that you probably did not know they existed, and you're probably trying to figure out why they exist. So I'm going to put in my United States Code. And so what you're actually going to be taking a look at is the United States Code Service, because Lexis owns the United States Code Service. Click on my symbol. So, and these are the 54 titles for the United States Code. As I tell people all the time, the Internal Revenue Code, the IRS code, it is not a separate code. It is Title 26 within the United States Code. So we always hear about the Internal Revenue Code. Keep in mind, it is not a separate code. It is Title 26 of our federal statutes, our federal codes. Well, in terms of our money, our currency, we're all quite familiar with our coins. We know we have the penny, which is the 1 cent. We have the nickel, which is the 5 cent. We have the dime, which is the 10 cent. We have a quarter, which is the 25 cent. And then we know we've got others like the $50, and we got different coins that represent, a dollar, the Susan B. Anthony. But by federal statute, did you know that if our Department of Treasury wanted to, there is a currency less than the penny, less than the 1 cent. So we're going to go into wonderful Title 30, which is money and finance. Just click on that box with the plus sign and it will expand. And so now I'm going to go into subtitle 4, money. Click on that box with the plus sign so it will expand. And now I'm going to go into chapter 51, which is coins and currency. But I want you to keep something in mind, everyone. We went into title 31, money and finance. We went into subchapter 4, money. Now we're going into chapter 51, coins and currency. Now we're going into subchapter 1, monetary system. So sometimes there's 1 or 2 clicks, and sometimes it may take a little bit more. I'm going to click on this decimal system. And by federal statute, if our Department of Treasury wanted to, they could create something that is less than the 1 cent, less than the penny, a meal. And it takes 1,000 meals to have $1, to create $1. Just so you know, the federal government pretty much stopped making the meal after the first Great Depression, the first crashing of the US stock exchange, which was in 1929. So by federal statute, if our Department of Treasury wanted to bring back the meal, they could, because it's stated in the law, stated in the statute. But what I want to point out is the hierarchy. The hierarchy is right here. So here we see, we went into Title 31. We went into that subtitle 4, money. We went into 51, coins and currency. And now we're looking at that subchapter 1, monetary system. And over here with our table of content, we saw those 3 statutes that we saw before. I just want to take this moment to point out a great feature you're going to have on all of your documents. And that feature is export citation. This is one of your citation management tools. We ask, what is your selected citation format? You have APA, Blue Book, Chicago, and MLA. Blue Book is how one cites in the legal world. I can select that. I can highlight, copy, and paste, or copy to a clipboard. So that's one of your citation management tools. Also, at the end of your statutes, you're going to see sometimes case law that interprets that statute, or you may see secondary sources. I'll do one where we have a secondary source. What's great about doing legal research online is the capability to link to related documents. So if I want to read any of these decisions, all I have to do is click on this hypertext link, and the system would take me to that related information, that related statute. Let me just stop, and Julia or Amanda, anything in the chat?
Still no questions in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free, students, if you have any questions, to put them in there and we'll address them. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we're going to do one more browsing. Okay. Believe it or not, everyone, there are federal statutes about honeybees and honeybee semen. I know you're scratching your head thinking, really? Yes. You got to remember, the government's job is to, create laws on all types of subjects or matters that will pertain to, our country. So I would like to say, let's say that, okay, you're just like, you know what? The pandemic has just really taken its toll on me. You know what? I'm just going to suck it up and I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to go to Mexico. And while you're sitting on the beach drinking, a margarita, whether it's an alcoholic margarita or a virgin margarita, you come up with this wonderful idea. When you were on your flight, you were reading, a newspaper, and there was an article about how honeybees are dying. They're dying. We don't know why. We don't know if it has anything to do with climate change, the environment. And I know you're thinking to yourself, okay, is that a bad thing that honeybees are dying? Yes, it is. Even though most of us don't like honeybees, we run from them, even though we're not supposed to. We need honeybees. The farmers need honeybees. They're a critical part of the, agricultural process. Think about when you were in high school and you were learning biology, pollination, that whole concept. So the fact that they are dying and we don't know why, it is troublesome, believe it or not. So you're thinking, you know what? When I was riding, taking that shuttle from the airport to my hotel, I saw a honeybee farm. Maybe I want to start a honeybee farm in the United States. And maybe I can buy some honeybees in Mexico and, have them shipped to Ohio and start my honeybee farm. Well, you need to find out, can you do that? Is it against the law to import honeybees from another country? I can tell you it is. I know you're shaking your head, thinking about honeybees and honeybee semen. So we're going to go to agriculture, which is Title 7. Remember I said, we use numbers to represent a topic. So Title 7 is agriculture. I'm going to click on that box with the plus sign. And this is going to give me all of the chapters within Chapter 7, agriculture. And like I said, we've got Chapter 11, honeybees. I'm going to click on that box with the plus sign. And here we have Section 281 of Title 7, agriculture, which talks about honeybee importation. So we went into that 7. More importantly, chapter 11. And here we have, so basically, the Secretary of Agriculture basically prohibits or restrict the importation or the entry of honeybee and honeybee semen into or through the United States in order to prevent the introduction and the spread of disease and parasites. Basically, everyone, we know, no offense, that each country, they may not have the same agricultural standards as we have in the United States. If you've ever traveled internationally, and when you come back into the United States, you have to fill out that customs form. And there's some really strange questions on that custom forms, like, have you been on a farm? Or you bringing back any seeds? Because once again, this is all going back to agricultural. Have you been around livestock? It's basically coming back to agricultural standards and trying to prevent, as we see, the introduction of the spread of something that may not be in the United States from another country. So I just kind of want you to be aware. So once again, at the bottom, you may see, sources. So if I want to go to this CFR, this Code of Federal Regulation that is related to this statute, click on that hypertext link. And that would take you to that CFR, that related information. So we're going to go back to our Nexus Uni. And so as we saw, if we have a citation, we can just type in that citation. So my Title IV, my USC, do it correctly, Section 8. But now what we're going to take a look at is Get Doc Assistance. And that Get Doc Assistance, I really wish you would read Get a Legal Doc Assistance, because this will help you with getting legal documents. We can get help by citation, cases by party name, and cases by docket number. We're going to do citation, and we're going to do content type, and we're going to do statutory codes. And right now, we have a nice little listing of all of the different statutory codes that are available. So if I wanted to, I can specify Ohio. And now all I got to do is click on this hypertext link, because like I said, I may not be aware of what Ohio calls its statutes. So I'm going to type in my 5.49, click on my Get, and this will go get that Ohio statute for me, which is, I just thought this was so wonderful. Superman Day. The 12th day of June is designated as Superman Day. And I didn't know this. I learned something new the other day, that this is to recognize the birthplace of one of the creators of, the superhero who stood for truth, justice, and the American way. So just so you know, the 12th of June in Ohio is Superman Day. And if I want to see all of the different, holidays over here in my table of content, just so you know, I just thought that that was just a wonderful, and I'm going to incorporate that into some of my training, that, the 12th of June is Superman Day. We're going to go back. And I'm going to click on that Get Doc Assistance again. My statutory code, but this time I'm going to do my state of Missouri. So here's that link. Click on my Get Document. So So governor to proclaim Jefferson Day. Jefferson City is my state capital. So it looks like this is kind of, in recognition of Thomas Jefferson. Really has Thomas Jefferson really does not have any connection to Jefferson City, but nice to know that the April 13th is Jefferson Day, So like I said, there are a lot of holidays that each state has that basically ties into, something significant for that date. For example, over here, so if I went to my next or using my table of content, but I'm going to go with next, we actually have Truman Day, which is a state holiday for the state of Missouri, meaning if you try to do anything in Jefferson City, Jeff City, our state capital, on May 8th, you're not going to be able to do anything because the state capitol is shut down in recognition of Truman Day, because Truman is Harry S. Truman is the only president from the state of Missouri. So to recognize that, a resident of Missouri becoming president, we have Truman Day, which is May 8th. So just kind of want you to be aware that if you need some assistance, because like I said, each state calls its statute something differently. You may not be, aware. You can also use that Get Doc assistance. So at this time, I want to stop talking. So hopefully, you can put in a citation, you can search. Searching is nice, but a much better way to take a look at your statutes is that browsing. Because like I said, if you want to see all the laws for marriage, yes, it's nice that you can type marriage and get every single statute that mentions marriage, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's truly, truly about marriage. Where when we browse through the table of content, and we know statutes are codified, they're organized by topics, you're truly getting to topics. It's truly getting to statutes about that specific topic or subject. So I just want to stop, and I'm going to sort of kind of stop talking and see if there are questions, concerns, or comments.
Yes, thank you. Feel free to use that chat box. Anyone who may have a question about finding statutes for different states or federal statutes. I'm going to go ahead and post links to our upcoming workshops as well that are next week. So we do encourage you to join us for those too.
Well, I really want to thank you all so very much for taking time out of your busy day. Hopefully this gives you some insight into how to, search statutes on Nexus Uni. I really appreciate you taking time, especially on a Friday afternoon. I know Friday afternoons, that's always a catch-22 for having a webinar. So I truly, truly appreciate it. This is being recorded, and I know that the recording will be shared with you all. So hopefully you have a better understanding of how to search statutes, but more importantly, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone. Okay. And hopefully we'll see you next week.